Buenas tardes. Vamos a esperar un minuto a ver si me dicen que me están escuchando, me están viendo. ¿Cómo andan? Hola. Bueno, vamos a ver si me confirman que tengo mucho delay, pero vamos a ver si me están viendo. Yo ya puedo. A ver si ahí se ve. Sí, acá ya YouTube me está avisando que me dice con su conexión tercermundista. No, con su conexión tercermundista usted no puede transmitir nada. Por favor, llame a la NASA porque bueno, como yo ya sabe YouTube que yo soy masón, pero en fin, todo bien, dice el amigo. Bueno, entonces lo que yo voy a hacer, ahí veo que es masón grado 21. No, a mí me fueron degradando. No voy a poder transmitir, me parece, con esta conexión. Voy a cerrar esta, a ver si... Vamos a hacer así. Saludos, pérdicas pérdicas verde, eso suena medio raro. Saludos desde Santa Chirucuca. ¿Qué es eso? Por Dios. Bueno, no anda la conexión, gente, me parece, ¿eh? Vamos a tener problemas para transmitir. Me parece que no. No sé si tengo algo que pueda mejorar. Hola, mi estimado. A ver. ¿Se sigue escuchando? ¿O se cortó? ¿Hola? Me parece que se cortó esto. ¿Hola? A ver si lo pongo desde acá, ¿qué pasa? A mí los masones no me envían ni... Ya te borraron de la lista, Retro. Bueno, veo ahí, me puse YouTube, veo que se ve todo pixelado. Esto va a ser un desastre la transmisión, pero bueno. La idea, la idea era retransmitir este directo de la NASA, donde van a lanzar a los muchachos esto, acá, a los cuatro muchachos esto con la cápsula CREB 1, pero me parece que no vamos a poder. Voy a cerrar algunas cosas que no sirvan, como esta, y acá que tengo. Esto lo vamos a cerrar también. Después tenía unas cosas para contarle de la Soyuz y de... Esto también lo vamos a cerrar. De Donald Trump no vamos a hablar hoy tampoco, así que vamos a cerrar. NASA oficial, si se escucha, sí. Bueno, perfecto. Bueno, doy por hecho que se escucha y qué sé yo. Y que se va a ver todo pixelado el tema. Pero bueno, vamos. A mí acá me lo muestra todo pixelado, pero bueno. Bueno, la idea es ver a ver hasta dónde llegan estos. Espero que no se caigan estos muchachos, que no los sale. Faltan 5 minutos. Eh, Acá auspicia este directo Idu Planucci, que es un terraplanista argentino. En el 2015 estaba muy agrandado el tipo. Decía que gracias a él había revivido la Tierra plana. Le decía a Alerta. Y bueno, y después hablaba que Peter Pan, no sé qué tenía que ver con el pan nuestro de cada día, y que la NASA eran unos truchos, como siguen siendo ahora. Ahora en el 2020 le viven cerrando el canal, así se queja porque le cierran el canal, le da ansiedad eso, y pide plata porque dice que no tiene para frula. No sé qué es la frula, la verdad. Acá tiene unas plantitas que no sé de qué son. Yo no conozco mucho el tema. Lo pide para eso. Eh, pero bueno, en el 2015 estaba muy agrandado, ahora ya prácticamente está. Así que este chico auspicia el programa de hoy. Un tal Idu Planucci, un genio. Así que bueno, se lo dejo un ratito por acá. ¿Qué le vamos a hacer? La astronauta está un poco. La astronauta está un poco gordita. ¿Está gordita la astronauta? Bueno, vamos a sacarlo a este ya. Salúdenlo, pobrecito. Denle alguna ayuda económica porque parece que necesita comprar algunas cosas. Este, a ver ¿cuál es la que está gordita? Nada, bueno, por ahí le quedó un poco más, se le hicieron más así para una figura. Fíjese que esto parece un paquete de yerba, estos cuatro. No sé si es gordita, habría que ver, ¿no? No sé si hay otra foto de la chica esta. Nos faltan 3 minutos, vamos a estar atentos a esa cosa que es. A ver si acá hay otra foto. Tengan paciencia, porque esto es así. Acá, internet, yo tengo dos hámster ahí adentro que administran el espacio en disco. Sí, no sé si es gordita. Media peticita por ahí. Acá le preguntaron si pensaban que la Tierra es plana, entonces ellos no sabían si responder o reírse, pobres. Este, bueno, 3 minutos, en fin, a ver si me cuentan algo. Cada vez salen más caros los. No sé, siguen mandando globos, Planucci. ¿Qué hizo con los videos? Eso que dijo que iba a mostrar los de que recuperaron del globo. ¿Lo recuperó al final? Tendría que ponerme a investigar un poco eso, a ver si. Publicó los videos que dijo que iba a publicar, de el ojo de pez y el no ojo de pez, todo eso. Acá lo dejamos un rato. Vamos a dejarlo un ratito así. Vamos a ponerlo tipo. Ahí está, para que él esté atento también. Oh, miren este. Este es un terraplanista haciendo prueba de terreno. Ahí está, vamos a dejarlo ahí. Así mira él también el lanzamiento. Vamos a esperar acá a ver si esto arranca y en qué condiciones. ¿Cómo estamos con el clima? Hace calor hoy acá, ¿eh? Pobre, pobre. Che, una duda tengo, supongo, ustedes están viendo el chat, ¿no? Sí. Porque el otro día me puse a ver el directo anterior y no aparece el chat. No sé si eso es algo nuevo de YouTube, yo hace tanto que no. Vamos a ponerlo acá. Vamos a ponerlo acá. A ver qué dicen. Tengo un lag, ¿no? Está el amigo Curve Planet también transmitiendo. Bueno, igual van a ir más para allá que para acá, así que no creo que le robe gente. A ver. Bueno, se pinchó el globo, lo está. El amigo Bessi. Le dejé un video de un terraplanista que se fuma en pipa a una astrofísica muy reconocida. ¿Cómo anda, amigo? Espérenme que me están entrando un mensaje y no sé por qué. Espérenme un segundo, total. Ya arranca esto, ¿eh? Ahí estamos, ahí estamos. Ahí lo tenemos al auspiciante. Hoy auspicia al amigo el terraplanista acá de venido a menos. Miren, me sirve para acá por las dudas para tapar esta parte de acá. Y hoja. ¿Qué hacen quintapatista? ¿Cómo andan? Fue cayendo gente, 9 personas, che, que bien, ¿eh? Bueno, yo no sé si esto se va a escuchar, si vale la pena ponerle sonido o la voy a complicar más con el sonido. Mejor el sonido se lo saco hasta que hablen del... Hasta que hablen de... O presenten el lanzamiento por las dudas. Uy, se me fue... Bueno, mientras tanto lo podemos divertir con un par de imágenes que tengo. Miren esta. A ver, vamos a hacer así. Total. Miren. Bueno, esta no. Esta la voy a dejar para otro. No, ¿dónde tengo la? Esta. Esta me mató. La otra vez la pusieron. Bueno, estos no son terraplanistas. Estos son uno que se llama Nuevo Orden Mundial. Entonces, parece que los incendios. Los incendios forestales. Vamos, ahí está el cohetito, vamos. Los incendios forestales los hacen con este rayo, que acá el rayo este está dibujado, por supuesto. Con este avioncito que de acá tira un, de este pitulín que tiene acá, tira un rayo y prende fuego, fíjense cómo bombardea. El marmota que hizo esto, se ve que tiene la suerte de no vivir en zonas como en el caso mío, que tuvimos este año, tuvimos lo más cerca del incendio, estuvieron a 1 kilómetro más o menos de 1 kilómetro, algunos lugares que se quemaron. Eh, Esto es para charlar, ¿no es cierto? En otro programa, el tema de los incendios. Con una bicicleta, mira lo que te digo, con una bicicleta, una pelota así atada en una de las puntas de la soga de trapo, prendido fuego, hace un incendio de kilómetros. Lo único que tenés que hacer es meterte a andar en la bicicleta y que el trapito vaya recorriendo y prendiendo los pastitos. Después se prende todo. El tipo que puso esto no tiene ni idea con la facilidad que se hace un incendio en las zonas como en el caso mío en Córdoba, que tuvimos 8 meses donde no cayó una gota de agua. Entonces estaba todo seco y se prendía con cualquier cosa se prende. Ahora este prefiere decir que se prende con un avión, porque estarán probando, vaya a saber por qué. Deben estar probando esta arma. Deben estar probando esta arma y qué mejor idea que probarla prendiendo fuego bosque, ¿no es cierto? Qué más lindo que eso. Otra vez hace poquito antes de un incendio justo pasó un avión bien bajito de esto. Y yo le vi que tenía esto, así que sí, puede ser, ¿eh? Puede ser. Bueno, en fin, te piden que confíes en ello. Vamos a dejarlo al amigo acá. A ver. No sé si da para ponerle el sonido, ¿no? Porque para escuchar a los gringos esto decir pavada hasta que lancen. No sé qué opinan. A ver qué están escribiendo ustedes. Le voy a sacar un rato. A ver, a ver, a ver. Con el contrabando de lejía. Qué sé yo lo que está haciendo Planucci, la verdad. De algún lado algo de plata le deben estar dando. Eso, nos dedicamos, nos subimos a un avión con un rayo láser. eh, y apuntamos con el rayito y prendemos fuego. Si con una antorcha lo puede hacer también, pero vamos a hacerlo con tecnología, que es más divertido. Vamos a ponerlo de vuelta a Mamocho este a ver si va aprendiendo. Ahí está, que vaya mirando. Capaz que con el tiempo aprende un poquito y deja de hablar pavada. Ahí está. Ay, me tapa el... Qué lástima, me tapa... Vamos a hacerlo así. Total ya leyeron ustedes. A ver cómo podemos hacer para que se vea... No, así no. Mire, yo no lo veo ahí. Vamos a dejarlo así chiquitito acá. Ahí. Señor, denme una ayuda económica. No, no me ponga música, por favor, el asistente, Si me pone música estamos al horno. No sé si se escucha, si se ve esto ahí. Regreso en breve. Bueno, ¿cómo se ve? Bien mal esto, che. Mira, bajó la calidad a 240. A ver si la podemos poner así. ¿Qué pasa? Vamos con sonido, dice. ¿Pongo sonido? Pero no lo va a poder transmitir, No se lo va a bancar. Ahí está. ¿Cómo anda, señor José? No, no, hoy no, hoy tratamos de... Ay, Se me va la mascota oficial. Vamos a poner como la mascota oficial. Acá lo vamos a dejar. Que vea el lanzamiento. Todo esto ustedes saben que esta gente le pagan para hacer que... Si ustedes dan vuelta al monitor está jugando, como dijo, sabe Iron Man cuando estuvo en la película, que dijo, ese señor está jugando al Gálaga. Estos están todos jugando al Gálaga. Porque si no tienen nada que hacer, si es todo mentira. Ustedes hagan que tipean, dice que están mirando a un control. Mirá los yankees cómo se van apropiando de todo. Launch America pone con la formita de la ISS con banderita. Qué maestros que son, Acá hay otro, que hace que está trabajando. Yo te estoy viendo en 480, dice NASA. Yo no sé cómo... Acá ya me muestra, a mí ya me muestra que estoy retrasado en el directo. A ver ahí la Amazona, esta Amazona que dice. ¿Qué pasa? Vayan, ahora les doy de comer. A ver. Es todo circo, dicen. Sí, esto es todo mentira. Construyen estas cosas de gusto, gastan plata, le podrían dar de comer a las cotorras que están muertas de hambre ahora con la sequía y en lugar de hacer eso, construyen estas cosas. Ya sabemos que se... Uy, está todo nublado, che, lo único que falta es que no se puede ver porque las nubes no dejan ver a los... Ahí se me normalizó el... Ahora sale bastante bien, ¿no? Se normalizó. Todo falso. Todo... Sí, sí, es todo un acting. Encima ahora que perdió el amigo Trump admitió que perdió. Tienen que hacer toda esta laraca para... Es normal el delay. Sí, sí, el tema del delay no me preocupa. Lo que me preocupa es... ahora se normalizó un poco. Es que el upload que tiene la conexión de internet que tengo acá es muy cortito. Entonces... ¿Qué convendrá? ¿Achicarlo o agrandarlo esto? O dejarlo así. ¿Qué dirán ahora los terraplanos cuando van? Ah, bueno, una cosa interesante de esta de la cápsula esta que pueden ir hasta 4 personas. Y en la Soyuz puede ir máximo, hay 3 lugares. Ya es un avance. Espero que no les pase nada, toquemos madera. Bueno, si les pasa el CGI, supongo, ¿no? Para los terraplanistas no les preocuparía que suceda algo. No sé bien a qué hora estaba. Me parece que me adelanté, ¿no? 7:27. Me parece que me adelanté al lanzamiento, ¿no? Porque no hay ni conteo, nada todavía. A ver qué dicen. Sí, con lo que vale, tiene razón Retro, con lo que vale ese cohete y tener estos monitores acá prendidos de gusto, gastando energía, se le puede ayudar acá a la mascota que pide ayuda y a toda la troupe de... Miren, acá este tiene unos gráficos acá. Todo mentira, es lo mismo que yo ponga gráfico. Miren, miren, miren. Todo mentira. Todo gráfico que monitorea qué. Acá tienen el... Miren, acá Libertalia y Edit Flat Air tiene razón. Miren, acá está el plano del libro de Nock. El plano Pac-Man 4D, como dice... Uy, ahí se me cortó todo. Este famoso plano Pac-Man 4D que dice César Sinilla. Hablen del plano... Ellos dicen que el sol entra por acá y sale por acá. No, al revés. A ver, sí. Sale por acá y entra por acá. Y la luna también. Y los aviones también. De acá salen acá. Y está Enoch acá arriba mirando. Dice, no, vayan, vengan. El patriarca Enoch. Miren, acá hay 27.900 mirando y acá 7. Bien. Me falta poco y los alcanzo. Un poquito más y ya... Mirá cómo se retrasó todo esto. 25 segundos me marca ahora acá. Qué bárbaro. Uy, cuando vean esto los terraplanistas, esta especie de... ¿Qué vendría a ser esto? Una especie de reptiliano azul. ¿Lo vieron? El logo. Miren, ese logo es un reptiliano. Un draconiano, porque es Crew que los reptilianos todavía. Son más grandotes y tiran fuego. Me cambié de lugar la máquina y ahora veo más los autitos como pasan. No sé si habrán dado cuenta que cambié el escenario. Tengo que acomodar los libros y los soldaditos de la Segunda Guerra atrás. A ver, a ver, a ver. En la Creron pueden ir hasta 7. Ah, mira, eso no lo sabía, ¿eh? Pusieron un taladro, claro. Sí, sí, es muy buena la que dice Retro. Deben haber puesto un taladro para ver si de una vez por todas puedan perforar el domo de gases en estado crítico. Miren, ya está de vuelta acá en el fondo. No sé si un draconiano, un lobo draconiano. Para mí no nos hemos dado cuenta, pero para mí los reptilianos están en retirada y ahora los que... ¿Cómo? ¿3 horas faltan? No, si faltan 3 horas, ¿sabés cómo lo termino? ¿Cómo lo termino el directo este y lo abro de vuelta? 3 horas dice acá. ¿Lo ven? ¿Cómo sabemos el tiempo que falta? Sí, mirá, tiene razón, ahí lo que están discutiendo Retro y NASA, tiene razón. A esa velocidad, yo no puedo, ¿cómo puedo tener cualquier cosa? Se correría todo, mis perros se estrellarían todo contra el alambrado. No me quiero imaginar cómo quedarían, pobres ahí. No se puede. 58. Che, 3 horas faltan. ¿Cómo 4 minutos? 3 horas 58 minutos 44. ¿Ustedes lo ven a esto? Yo estoy confundido. Encima los masones que estoy pasando el audio de ellos se van a enojar y me lo van a cancelar todo. Sí, 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 esa velocidad, ya a 50 kilómetros en bicicleta, se te meten los bichos en el ojo, respirás y se te meten las moscas, los bichitos por la nariz, y esto me van a hacer creer que voy... ¿Cómo no me choco las moscas cuando camino a 1600 kilómetros por hora? Nada, ellos ya saben que es mentira, pero bueno. Están robando, porque con lo que roban de la NASA lavan dinero, compran unos lavarropa para lavar dinero y después se lo quedan ellos. Muy sencillo. Qué bárbaro. Vamos a poner el mascotito de vuelta. 3 horas. 3 horas retro al final. Si faltan 3 horas lo cancelo el directo y lo abro dentro de 3 horas. Sí, me voy a cortar el pasto. ¿Cómo puede ser 3 horas? Me engañaron. A ver, el amigo NASA que está más... Mirá todo ese edificio hecho de gusto. ¿Cuánta plata gastaron? No, si es en 3 horas lo abro de vuelta a otro dentro de 3 horas. ¿Qué opinan ustedes? Y me voy a cortar el pasto. No vamos a esperar 3 horas escuchando a los gringos esto diciendo pavada. 7:27 pm, claro, era la cuenta que habíamos hecho la otra vez. 7:27. ¿Qué hora es ahora? No sé, estoy en duda, ¿eh? Claro. Sí, se piensa en eso, que los billetes van... Estoy pensando, tengo dudas si es... Acá dice a las 7:27 es ahora, ¿no? ¿Cuánta diferencia tenemos con Florida? ¿Sabés? ¿Vos me podés googlear ahí? Ale, ¿me podés googlear la diferencia de tiempo entre Argentina y Florida? 3 horas, 2 horas. No, pero eso, si lo están, mirá, acá están poniendo en el simulador de CGI a los actornautas, como dice el cordobés Quileringa, los actornautas, o sea, falta todavía, me parece. Andás a lo que tenga que hacer, dejá el directo abierto y luego volvé. ¿Vos decís? Dejo el directo abierto, se va a ir donde no hay nada. Pongo un muñeco. Tendría que tener un muñeco mío. Como de la película. Inflo el muñeco. Mira, si tuviera una muñeca inflable, ahora la podría usar. Porque la pongo acá. Le tapo la boca así para que no parezca tan obscena. Ahí está el señor de color. Que también va. Uh, miren la número 33 acá. Ojo, Miren, no le quiten la mirada ahí. Ojo con la 33, No sé si la lograron ver. Sigan ese número, el 33. No, el 11 no. El 11 no, no. Hay que mirar el 33. Allá. Bueno, no sé qué hacer. 2 horas más en Argentina con respecto a Florida. Ah, 2 horas más, me dicen acá. Alejandra, me diste la data errónea. Ah, por delante. Ah, está bien. Ahora me cierra todo, diría. 2 horas más, o sea, las 7:26 son las 9:27. Ya está, ahora sí. Ahora sí, gente, ya lo tengo claro. A las 9:27 Argentina. Tenía razón ayer NASA, creo que lo dijo. 21 a 27. Son las 5. Me faltan 4 horitas casi. El tema es, si dejo el directo así, muteo el micrófono y dejo el directo y que sea lo que sea, y vuelvo. No tiene sentido dejar un directo 3 horas, ¿no? ¿Qué opinan ustedes? Me parece que conviene cerrar este y abrir uno dentro de uno parecido dentro a las 9, ponele. 9, 9:15. Parece que va a ser lo mejor, ¿eh? Son 2 horas más, dice el amigo Retro. ¿Qué opinan? ¿Qué opinan? A ver, vamos a esperar opiniones. Parece que mejor lo cierro y lo abro a las 9, 9:10. Me voy a cortar el pasto, le voy a comer a los quiltros, me camino un rato y vuelvo. Vamos a hacer eso. Creo que es lo mejor. Así que... Uy, se cerró todo. ¿Qué pasó? Acá. Volvé en 2 horas. Así es, así es, así es. Vuelvo con otro directo a las 21 horas. Y de paso no le hincho las bolas al directo que está haciendo el amigo Oscar en Curve Planner. Mándele saludo. Acá los despide nuestro amigo. Miren. Nos despide acá el amigo Planucci. Vuelvo a las 9:15 con otro directo. Qué grande. Qué grande la quinta pata de debate. Yo lo dejaría de fondo, dice Retro. Sí, pero ahora no. Si lo vas a mutear, sacate el audio, sí. Bueno, lo dejo. Listo. Está bien, lo dejo, lo dejo. Lo dejo, después vemos qué hacemos. Lo más probable es que se corte internet, se corte el directo. A ver, audio de escritorio lo dejo. Tengo que sacar dispositivo de captura de video. ¿Y cómo me están escuchando ustedes a mí? No vaya a ser el gran América, se olvidó la cámara. No, 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 porque no, esta. Pero no sé, perdonen que haga esta. Tengo idea cómo saco el audio acá, mío. A ver, micrófono está muteado acá. ¿Ustedes me escuchan? ¿O ya no me escuchan más? Dispositivo de captura de video. Captura de audio. Hola. 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 Este me parece. Si yo muteo esto.
While on STS-114, he became the first Japanese astronaut to perform spacewalks on the International Space Station, completing 3 of those spacewalks, totaling 20 hours. Each of these 4 crew members will serve as flight engineers for Expedition 64 once they arrive at the International Space Station. And we will continue to give you a close look at each of them as we continue to approach our T0 time.
You know, it's interesting, I think, as we introduce the crew members, kind of all these little small world, brings it back kind of connections. And yes, Soichi was on STS-114, which was a return to flight, first shuttle flight after Columbia. And one of his crewmates on STS-114 is Shannon's husband, Andy Thomas, who is also an astronaut.
It's a small world.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And, we heard a lot about their individual experiences. Nicole, how important is it to have a group of astronauts on a mission together that do have who have been through so many different things. And of course, this will be Victor's first space flight. I mean, what's your perspective on that?
Well, I think just in general, we've seen across many different industries, but certainly NASA, I think, kind of exemplifies this fact that when we bring different backgrounds together, we have a more successful mission, and we can look at solving problems in different ways. And the International Space Station program, without even looking at the crew members here today, has brought together, 15 different countries, 5 international space agencies, all working peacefully, successfully for this last 20 years. I think it's a perfect example of how when we bring these different experiences together, we have real success.
Yeah, continued proof. It's also worth noting that even though this is the second crew to suit up for a Crew Dragon space flight, they will accomplish several firsts. This will be the first 4-person crew ever on any capsule and on a commercial spacecraft at that. Walker will be the first woman on a commercial orbital spaceflight. Noguchi is the first international partner crew member on Crew Dragon. He will also be the first international partner astronaut to fly aboard 3 different types of orbital spacecraft, those being the U.S. Space Shuttle, the Russian Soyuz, and now third, the SpaceX Crew Dragon. Glover will be the first black astronaut to fly on a commercial spacecraft and the first black long-duration crew member to live aboard the International Space Station. Hopkins will be the first flight test engineer to command an American spacecraft. So making history on many fronts today.
Yeah, so just checking back in with the crew there, we see them lifting the visor. What they were doing just before, they were actually pressurizing the suit to make sure that everything was fitting properly, making sure all the seals were in place, making sure, so the spacesuits are custom fitted for each astronaut. They are specially designed to fit their specific bodies. So there's absolutely no chance that you can put someone's on and you can't mix them up. The same goes for their seat assignments inside the capsule as well. Those are also assigned. But these suits utilize zippers in certain places to help make sure. And so some of what we saw before was making sure the zippers are fully closed in place and making sure that we can apply pressure within the suit for, again, environmental controls. And it also allows us to maintain environment in the unlikely event of cabin depressurization. So it's safe to say that this mission certainly represents a lot that has been accomplished this year. It's kind of crazy to think that Demo 2 lifted off and splashed down just earlier. Years of cooperation with the cargo program, the cargo resupply going to the International Space Station, then developing this crew system that we see here. We had 22 trips to station so far to date, and 9 of those have actually been completed on a reused Dragon. So that's pretty exciting. Like I mentioned, we've had a lot of progress this year. The in-flight abort test was completed in January, and then, like I said, Demo 2 back in May, lifted off in May and splashed down in August. Nicole, were you able to follow along with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, just because you retire from the astronaut office doesn't mean you completely separate yourself,
Sure.
And, I made a point of following along, a lot of living vicariously through Bob and Doug for sure, just like today is watching these 4. And what's interesting to me is Bob and Doug were in my astronaut class, so it was like watching family, and pretty special to see when Megan and Karen, their wives were able to be out there, and both of them are also in our astronaut class. Yeah.
Okay, so while there are a lot of firsts that we have accomplished, will be accomplishing on this mission, for Mike and Victor, the most important moment so far was when Soichi and Shannon were assigned to their crew. Mike and Victor had been training with us at SpaceX for a while, along with Bob and Doug, and so when they had their full 1 assignment, it was a big deal. The 4-member crew starting training together as a unit earlier this year.
Yeah, I remember Shannon saying it was Friday, she was a management astronaut, and on Monday she was training for this flight. So it was a really exciting time for her, I know. And while training to fly aboard Dragon is serious business, the crew was able to have a little fun along the way and get to know each other better. Shannon told us that in some ways the pandemic actually made it easier for them all to bond. Once COVID hit, NASA and SpaceX had to find ways to make it safe for the crew to travel. And you can hear the helo flying above us as they get ready to depart the building and ride out to the pad. The crew ended up traveling as a unit and even lived together in a house while they were in Hawthorne, staying in a hotel. And at the end of each day, they'd all have dinner together. So spending so much time in each other's company, as you can imagine, allowed them to warm up to each other much faster and obviously get to know each other better than if it were under normal circumstances.
The crew also told us that the emergency trainings that they underwent also brought them closer together. Training for emergency scenarios is typically very stressful, and the crew has to approach each exercise with an exceptional amount of teamwork. At the end of these training days, everyone was always a bit sweaty, but mostly briefed around a conference room table. For Mike, he said that those were some of his favorite moments, sitting around the table, sharing stories and laughs with each other.
Yeah, and I know they've each talked about how it doesn't feel like work. It's like fun, and I don't want to call it play because it's serious business. But it's clear that this crew has enjoyed the journey with each other so far, and it's going to be so exciting to see them lift off from Launch Pad 39A in just under 4 hours. We are at T-minus 3 hours, 41 minutes, and counting. And Nicole, as you see the four of them there, it looks like they're nearing the end of the suit-up process, not ready to leave the room quite yet. But what's their headspace like right now?
Well, I think it's probably, a little bit of a balance between, holy moly, I'm really here, about to go, walk to a launch pad to go to space today, and then thinking about what they
are complete on schedule.
And then thinking about what they need to do as they get strapped into the spacecraft. But Victor, with his first flight, I imagine there's a little bit of a hypersensitivity too. You coming into this room. This is a historic room itself, the suit up room. Mm-hmm. There's like an aura. There's this awe about it, and I imagine he's trying to take everything he possibly can in and. To remember it. He'll be thankful for the pictures and videos, like we all are.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, and the people that they're there with, like Kate mentioned, this suit up team, you get to know these people. I mean, they're along with you for for the journey in general, training, and then all the way out to the pad, and so you feel like you're there with family as well, and you want them to feel like they're part of the experience, the excitement that you're having too about it.
Sure. Thanks, Nicole. Well, we've got about 15 minutes approximately until the crew leaves this suit-up room. So let's check in with John Innsbrucker for another operation update. John?
Thanks, Marie. We're coming up on T-minus 3 hours and 40 minutes, and all continues to go well for tonight's launch as we wait for the crew to walk out of the building. Now, the area around Pad 39A was cleared of personnel at T-minus 8 hours. The only people remaining on the pad right now are the ones needed for ingress of the astronauts. Now, we'll be covering crew arrival at the pad and entry into the spacecraft. Now, on the launch pad, as you can see, Falcon 9 is powered on. Engine and stage checkouts were performed several hours ago. We're currently monitoring telemetry and pressurizing gas storage vessels. The good news is the launch director and the chief engineer reported in the T-minus 4 hour briefing there's nothing significant to report on the rocket. Now, on top of the Falcon 9 in your picture, at the very top, the Dragon spacecraft. That capsule is ready for the crew. Functional checkouts were performed in preparation for the crew's arrival. Most recently, the Dragon propellant system was pressurized to final flight pressure about 40 minutes ago. And also, as the mission director reported, all spacecraft systems are go. Good news is the launch range is ready to support. They're green and go, working no issues at this time. And finally, on the weather, we're getting ready to release the first of several weather balloons in the last 3.5 hours of the countdown. So while we're waiting for those results to give us a better idea on the upper altitude winds, we are still anticipating acceptable weather for launch. So things are looking good with both Falcon and Dragon, and the weather is cooperating right now as we count down to liftoff. As we get ready for the crew to walk out, let's go back to our team at Kennedy Space Center.
All right, thank you, John. Looking back live inside the room, again, helos flying overhead. Everybody is getting ready for this crew to make their way just behind us on their way out to the launch pad. It is now T-minus 3 hours and 38 minutes here at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The crew ate lunch at about 12:15 and listened to a weather brief. Again, the main watch item right now is weather around the launch pad. We just watched the suit techs from SpaceX fit each crew member into their own custom spacesuit inside the crew quarters. And in just a few minutes, at T-minus 3 hours and 25 minutes, give or take, the crew will be making their way out of this famed suit-up room, down the hallway, into an elevator, down to the first floor, and then finally they will make that famous walk outside to see their families and a small group of well-wishers before they head out to the launch pad. And there are 3 Teslas waiting to drive the crew out to Launch Complex 39A. Riding in the first car will be suit techs and the closeout lead. And in the second Tesla, Mike and Shannon will be sharing a ride with the flight surgeon.
And in the third vehicle, we'll have Victor, Soichi, and another closeout lead. We will be following that convoy live every step of the way, getting you as close as possible without actually being in the car with them. So I want to point out, you might notice there on the front windshield of that Tesla, there were a couple of stickers. The 2 Teslas that were utilized in our previous crew missions have those stickers designating that. The first car will be the one that lacks those stickers. So we have a little bit of a wink there to our previous crew members that will be taking the ride.
Very cool. And one other thing that I think is really interesting, we'll only get a quick glance of it when the crew is getting into the elevator before they go downstairs. But if you look closely, you'll see when they get into the elevator, there will be a poster there with a bunch of signatures on it. And those are signatures of individual people in the NASA and SpaceX teams that have worked to make this ride as safe as possible. These folks take it very seriously that the crew's lives are in their hands, and so it's really special for the crew to see their signatures on the elevator when they step in those doors.
And we do pay attention. There was something similar to that for shuttle, and I hope everyone that signs those murals understands that the crew really takes that seriously and is looking for it as well.
That's really special.
We also happen to be celebrating 20 years of continuous human presence on the International Space Station. The very first expedition mission launched in October 2000, delivering American astronaut Bill Shepard and Russian cosmonauts Sergei Krikalev and Yuri Gidzenko to the International Space Station 20 Novembers ago. A NASA contingent was at the launch site in Baikonur and at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolev, just outside Moscow, including one of our own broadcasting the launch on that historic day.
Ignition.
T-minus 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6. We have engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition and liftoff. Liftoff of the Soyuz rocket, beginning the first expedition to the International Space Station and setting the stage for permanent human presence in space.
We want to introduce you now to Kyle Herring, the NASA Public Affairs Officer whose voice you just heard. Kyle, there you are. You called the launch that day. It was October 31st, 2000. And I know you've been involved in human spaceflight and missions way before that and ever since. Now, as we're about to launch long-duration human missions to the space station from U.S. soil on a commercial spacecraft this time, what do you remember about the day it all began?
20 years ago. It's hard to believe, actually. I remember almost everything about that day. And then again, it was almost in real time, like a blur. It was such a huge team that put that launch, not only the broadcast, but obviously the mission together. I was tied to Houston with just a phone line, and that broadcast still serves as kind of the template that we use for Soyuz crewed launches to this day. I was tucked behind the Russian Mission Control Center, the floor where the Russian flight control team that monitors the International Space Station, the Russian segment. I was adjacent to a NASA support team called the Houston Support Group which is a team of NASA Houston flight controllers with a flight director at the helm of that team as well. Above us was a balcony that overlooked that flight control room floor, and I remember that the adrenaline kind of built as the hour passed by for the broadcast, but everybody's, you know, kind of doing a job, and it was a pretty amazing day. And after liftoff, you know, there's really no script at that point. You just follow the milestones.
And Kyle, how does the accomplishment of Expedition 1 compare to what we're watching right now?
You know, it's similar and different at the same time. Expedition 1 was the Pathfinder increment. Even before launch, there was years of work that was done to ensure that they would have a safe and home work environment, if you will, on the station in which to live and operate. After 136 days on the station, Expedition 1 handed to Expedition 2, which had arrived via a space shuttle flight, and that kind of established the template for all of the crew rotations and the augmentations that we've done for ISS increments, and it's been pretty much seamless ever since. And, you know, by the way, the assembly continued around those folks while they continuously worked and lived on board the station at the same time.
And Kyle, I just want to acknowledge we have NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine and SpaceX leadership Gwen Shotwell in the room now to greet the crew, of course, from a safe distance and with their masks on as the crew prepares for walkout. But last question for you. You've been involved in commercial crew since the beginning of the program, and I know you also know these astronauts well. What's it like seeing them suit up, knowing that they will continue to carry the torch that was lit 20 years ago?
Yeah, these four astronauts are very familiar to me. I've been at the Johnson Space Center with NASA for more than 33 years now. It's really rewarding to see their training and their hard work come to fruition. Everything that they have trained for makes today probably seem like another training day to them. I know that their adrenaline and their excitement builds the closer they get to the reality of heading out to that launch pad in just a short while. You know, the commercial crew program was established for this moment. This flight puts the human aspect of the commercial spaceflight industry on display continuously, you know, for the next 6 months while they're up there and even after that. Tonight, engineers that are here on the ground who made this day possible, they're going to pause and enjoy this moment, and then they're going to put their heads back down and start continually working toward the next flights. So, you know, it's just going to keep building and building as we continue to rotate and augment these expeditions. You know, NASA enjoys and recognizes its history. The station's been built and sustained by what I kind of referred to as stepping stones and bridges. All the missions before and those since and those that are going to come will enable the research that's going to continue seamlessly on the International Space Station as NASA moves forward beyond low Earth orbit.
All right, Kyle Herring, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your perspective.
Thanks.
We're going to turn our attention back to the room. We could see the NASA Administrator and Gwen Shotwell of SpaceX. They're taking selfies with the crew in there. Nicole, I know you probably weren't taking selfies in the shuttle days. Technology's come a long way since
Not
then.
that old.
No, but, well,
We did selfies and you didn't know if you got it or not.
Got it, okay.
But this was a really special time because there are people in that room, like I mentioned before, that you want to share it with. We saw them doing pictures with all of the suit up team as well, and it's nice when the administrator and your leadership comes by to wish you on your way too. So
I would also definitely be taking selfies with
Yes.
them if I were in that room for sure. Now we're about 15 minutes away from the crew walkout happening, but I just want to draw a little bit of attention to the preparations that are going on inside the capsule. While the crew members are donning their suits, we have what we call the advance team. We heard a couple call-outs for the advance team a little while ago, but essentially the advance team are the people that are now out at the pad doing things like opening that hatch. I did get confirmation that the side hatch is open. We wait as long as possible to do that so that we make sure that the environmental humidity, bugs out here in Florida, we want to keep all those environmental things out. So that side hatch is now open, and that advanced team is also doing stuff like making sure the cabin lights are on, making sure that the individual task lights that the astronauts can use during flight are functional, and yeah, making sure that the cabin is ready to go in preparation for the crew's arrival.
And again,
so like I mentioned, yeah, there's a shot of Falcon 9 live from the pad at 39A now. Like I said, that side hatch is open. The advanced team is making the final preparations inside the cabin, getting ready for the crew to begin their journey out to the pad.
and launch weather today is 50% go. That was the weather at last check. It's actually looking really good downrange, so things look a little iffy around the pad as we get closer to T0 of 727 this evening. But if we can make the immediate area, it looks very good for abort conditions.
Yeah.
And I heard earlier that the forecast for Wednesday, which is obviously the backup day, if we don't make it today, in the immediate area looks really good, but the downrange weather is problematic. So we had 50-50 odds, I think, on Demo 2 launch day. So hopefully the odds will tip in our favor at just the right moment, because this is an instantaneous launch window.
I just received the most recent weather briefing a few minutes ago, and we're still at 50-50, so not better, but not worse.
Okay. And again, it should be just a couple of minutes before the crew departs that room, and I think we're going to get another look inside there. Again, we do have, I don't know if we could take a look outside the operations and checkout building, but we have a convoy stationed out there ready to take the crew. There's a look. And again, there are 3 Teslas. The crew will be split up 2 and 2 in the second and third Tesla. Is that right, Kate?
Exactly. Yeah, that first Tesla will have one of our closeout leads as well as 2 suit technicians. So we ensure that the whole suit-up crew also transports out to the pad along with our astronauts. Car 2 will have Commander Mike Hopkins as well as Mission Specialist Shannon Walker, as well as our flight surgeon. And then Car 3 will have Pilot Victor Glover and Mission Specialist Soichi Noguchi, as well as the second closeout lead. So, yeah, quite the cohort that'll be making the ride out to the pad.
There's also something else special that we want to mention. There's a mural. You might have caught a glimpse of it in that earlier shot. But there is a special mural that was commissioned in honor of the Crew 1 astronauts. I'm not sure if we could get a look at that again. There it is. The mural is titled Aspirants. The kids represent the range of ethnicities across the United States and the world, and that they look toward the future that the Crew 1 mission might bring. The artist, Brent DeHono, hinted that the dragon represents an immense prehistoric animal that evokes awe and wonder.
Shannon will be happy.
Yeah, Nicole, I know you've got a special appreciation for art.
Yeah, when I look at something like this, I think it's so special because it allows us to communicate with other audiences, right? To bring a little more of that awe and wonder into the whole space exploration thing through something like a mural where we're looking out to space and towards our future.
Okay, so again, we're standing by outside the Neil Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building. Crew donning their suits is complete. They should be making their way out of the room momentarily. They probably just a few moments ago finished up playing the The mysterious card game. Nicole knows about
you
this.
know, another one of these traditions. And yeah, you know, the commander has to beat the chief of the astronaut office in a game of 21 before you can leave the room. So maybe that's what's holding them up.
And we've got our resident social media guru here, Tahira Allen. Tahira, as we're waiting for the crew to walk out, what are folks talking about online?
Thanks, Marie. So before I get into the conversation, I want to note there are already over 200,000 people tuning into the show right now across all of our social platforms. And I've been monitoring the conversation all week, looking at our hashtag #LaunchAmerica, and that alone is up to 38,000 mentions.
And here they come, walking down the hall.
Oh.
Everyone's looking quite peppy there.
Yeah, so cool. They're looking for people. They're looking for the people that have helped them all along the way, too, and wanting to make eye contact.
Yep. And behind them is the banner that I talked about. That you couldn't really see it that well, but that banner behind them in the elevator holds the signatures of many of the team members who worked so hard to make sure that this spacecraft and rocket is as safe as possible for this crew. Okay, so we're just moments away from seeing the first multinational Crew Dragon crew exit the operations and checkout building outside here, but we will pause for America's national anthem performed by country music singer Travis Tritt. Special thanks to Travis Tritt for that beautiful rendition of America's national anthem. We are now just standing by. This is a view outside the Neil Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building. Inside here is the historic astronaut crew quarters and suit up the crew will be walking out of any moment now.
And you'll see stickers around that door. I think the crew actually did put their mission sticker up
They
over
did.
the NASA patch over the door the other day.
As we zoom in there, you can see along the door frame even more stickers. I believe there's one sticker from every mission, but I did notice that there was just enough room to put the Crew One sticker up on.
Oh, here they come.
Here they come. The Crew One astronauts now beginning their journey to the launch pad ahead of this historic mission to the International Space Station.
Outside the ONC building, we have friends and family gathered there for final goodbyes prior to liftoff with our astronauts.
And that's a very different thing to the shuttle days. The last time we saw our families would have been at what we called the wave across the ditch, the day before launch. And typically for shuttle launches, you would have employees and people that would come out to wish us well. I think it's a very special thing that the crew's families get that up close and personal right before they get into the crew transport vehicles to the pad.
You notice everyone keeping is a safe distance here, but that distance would be enforced regardless of whether COVID-19 was a factor in what's going on. That distance is maintained regardless. Like I mentioned before, there are 3 Teslas that will be taking our crew out. In the first car, we will have a closeout lead as well as a couple of suit technicians. The second car will be Mike Hopkins and Shannon Walker, as well as our flight surgeon. And then the last car, we will have Victor Glover and Soichi Noguchi, as well as one of our other closeout leads. So like I mentioned before, the suits are assigned, the seats in the capsule are assigned, as well as the seats in the Teslas. There's no fire drills happening here today.
Soichi.
You can hear just some ambient conversations between the crew and their immediate families. Such a special moment for them to have.
Very.
This crew has said a couple of times that Soichi is the funniest one of them all, and that comes out here.
Yeah, you can definitely
Yes,
see that.
absolutely.
This is all very carefully choreographed. You can see, you see in one of the shots some of the ropes and stanchions, but there are lots of people involved in the planning of where the immediate families are going to stand, where the small contingent of media will stand, especially in COVID times where we have to make sure we're keeping the crew safe and their families safe. They were able to have a little extra time with their families yesterday because we moved off of yesterday as the launch day, so they had a little extra downtime that I imagine was nice for them.
Yeah, you mentioned that everything is very well choreographed. While this is the first time that we're seeing the crew make this journey to the pad on, the day of, fingers crossed we don't have a scrub. They have performed this a number of times, including a dry dress earlier this week. But everything that this crew does is rehearsed many, many times, whether it's putting the suits on or taking them off, or even the operations and activities that they have going on during the mission. Everything is rehearsed and practiced.
I can tell you, though, on the real day, feels a little different.
I have no doubt.
Immediate family members getting a chance to have another moment with the crew before they leave.
And then you'll see some of the folks there in the blue flight suits. Those are astronauts from the astronaut office, active, that are working as crew support astronauts for the families and the crew members. That's so awesome.
So I mentioned earlier that the Teslas that we utilized in our last crew mission, Demo 2, you can tell which Teslas those are because of the sticker in the lower passenger side front window.
I can't get a good read at the license plate this time, but I remember for demo 2 they said ISS bound.
Yeah, that's good.
I think another one might say later Earth.
This is Core on Countdown 1 for timeline. The crew is departing for the pad on schedule.
All right, so we just heard the call out from the core that the crew is departing for the pad, and they are right on schedule. Again, they are leaving the Neil Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building, now beginning a 20-minute ride, 20 minutes or so across NASA, right behind where we're sitting. We can't wait for that, and out to Launch Pad 39A. Now, there are scores of people around the world watching and cheering on these 4 souls, including many team members who helped get the crew here today. Take a look.
This is Stephanie Duncan and the Duncan family from the Commercial Crew program at the Johnson Space Center. NASA, SpaceX, Shannon, Victor, Mike, and our new man, Soichi, you're all an inspiration to us adults and kids around the globe. From Texas to you, Godspeed, and let's launch America!
Aloha, I'm Gabriella from SpaceX in Boca Chica, Texas. On behalf of the entire Starship production facility and launch site, congratulations to our crew and astronauts as well. Shannon, Victor, Mike, and Soichi. Safe travels and best of luck. We hope you enjoy the journey to the International Space Station. Godspeed Falcon 9, go Dragon, go NASA, and thank you for riding with SpaceX.
いつも一番難しいミッションが回ってきて挑戦をやめない野口さん、頑張ってください。日本中が応援してます。JAXA フライトディレクターの島村です。日本人初民間有人宇宙船に搭乗ということで、全国民が熱い思いで打ち上げの瞬間を待っています。野口さん、頑張ってください。
From the entire Commercial Crew program team, Mike, Victor, Shannon, and Suichi-san, we're looking forward to your flight. Godspeed, resilience, and go Crew 1!
This is Mark Welch from the Commercial Crew program in Houston. Go Mike, Victor, Shannon, Suichi. Have a great flight to ISS. Go Crew 1! Yeah!
Yeah! This is Micah here from the Dragon team at SpaceX. We've all worked tirelessly to build a reliable vehicle for the crew, and now it's time to fly. We hope that they enjoy a totally rad rocket ride aboard Resilience. Go Dragon!
Hey Mike, Shannon, Victor, and Soichi. This is Amber Jacobson from NASA's Space Communications and Navigation Program, better known as SCAN. We're all so excited for your launch, and we'll be working hard down here, making sure you stay connected with Earth. Stay safe, and let's launch America.
Hi, I'm Arden Robertson from NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. Congratulations on the first Commercial Crew rotation mission to the International Space Station. Godspeed and good luck to Mike, Victor, Shannon, and Soichi. Go Crew 1!
We love hearing from those team members. It was really great to get the JAXA team included in those messages. Again, we are following the convoy out to Launch Pad 39A. And we understand that the crew has a ride out playlist. We tried and tried, could not find out what that playlist was, so I think that's top secret. But we had some conversation amongst ourselves about what they might be listening to. My personal pick would be something from Queen.
And I told you I'm going to steal that because
Yes.
we need to have Don't Stop Me Now going right
Yes,
here.
that is the
at
perfect
desk.
going to space song.
Mine would definitely, with the spacesuits looking like futuristic robot aliens, yeah, I just have to go with Daft Punk for sure.
And as we're watching the crew, this is from we're calling it our chase car. The road is shut down in either direction for the convoy, so we are on the opposite side of the road with a camera, literally, so you can be along with the crew every step of the way. Tahira, I know we had to cut things short earlier, but I imagine there's been a lot of reaction to the things folks are seeing, and I'm sure you've got some thoughts on a playlist as well.
Yeah, oh my goodness. So, I mean, the top sentiments that we're seeing online are just a lot of patriotism and well wishes for the crew. And that ride out playlist question is so fun. I think if I'm awesome enough to be an astronaut, I would definitely be playing Feeling Myself. But I think that's something that we should even pose to the public. So for those of you watching right now, head on over to NASA's Twitter, and we're going to get a question out to ask what's one song you would absolutely have to have on your ride out playlist to the launch pad. Ladies, I'm very excited to see what comes in, so I'll keep you updated.
So just real quick on that note, I just got notification of the playlist.
Okay, we're all dying to know. What are they listening to right
Shannon
now?
has great music.
So like we mentioned before, they are in two different vehicles. They're on one playlist. We have songs like Alicia Keys, How It Feels to Fly, Phil Collins, In the Air Tonight, Eminem, Till I Collapse, Van Halen, Right Now. So like a pretty big
that's
mix.
one of my favorites. Yes.
And then in the other vehicle, Fly Away by Lenny Kravitz, Jump also by Van Halen, Uptown Funk from Bruno Mars. That's a good one.
That's a good one. Yes. Those are all really good ones. I feel like folks are going to, I don't know, can we make those the choices, Tahira?
I'll let y'all know what comes in.
So Nicole, obviously they're in a pair of Teslas. This is a little different than your ride-out experience. Can you kind of compare, contrast for us?
Well, we rode out in something called the Astrovan, which I thought was really cool too. You know, the silver sleek vehicle that was heading out to the pad. But I don't know. There's something about this ride. You're again. The word surreal comes to mind a lot. You know, you're thinking like, I'm in a vehicle that's driving to a launch pad to take me to space, and it's difficult to believe that could be happening. So
I wonder did it feel any different the first time versus the second time? Because Victor is the first timer here, and the others, it's their second or even third. And there goes the helo that's leading the way. So that's our cue that the convoy is going to be passing by us pretty shortly. Looks like they're turning right now on NASA Causeway.
Yep. Yeah, it's, I think just like launch, on your second time you think, ooh, been there, done that. You're gonna, but I'll tell you what, the adrenaline, the feeling is equally as excited on the second time too.
Okay, I know you're all watching the convoy, and so are we. We're turning around in our chairs because it looks like, is that the first car?
That's probably the lead vehicle
This
there.
car, I think we see the lead car going by, so we're all turned around in our seats so we can watch them in person.
Yeah.
So something that's really cool, well, I think, we can see in the background there, they're passing the Vehicle Assembly Building, or the VAB, a very famous building here at NASA. And I just think it's so cool that they're literally driving down the road where the shuttle and the Saturns used to come down on the crawler, down there on Crawler Causeway. And there we see them in front of the VAB now.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
So awesome.
All right, so as we're getting an awesome look right behind us of the crew passing by the press site here at Kennedy Space Center, among those of you following along on NASA TV and online are a very special group of folks, some who the crew might even recognize. Take a look.
Hello, we are aerospace engineers from the University of Illinois, Mike Hopkins' alma mater. The University of Illinois family would like to wish Mike the very best on his launch and mission to the International Space Station. You're a huge inspiration to all of us. ILL!
What's up, everyone? My name is Aman Asfal from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, Victor Glover's alma mater. I and my fellow students from Cal Poly want to wish Victor and all of Crew 1 a safe launch and wonderful mission to the International Space Station. You're an inspiration to us all, and thank you for representing Cal Poly well.
Hi, I'm Ryan Udell from Rice University Students for the Exploration and Development of Space.
And I am Fanny Pandiao with Rice's Society of Women in Space Exploration.
All Rice Owls wish Shannon Walker and her crewmates a safe launch.
And a successful mission to the International Space Station.
Fly high, Shannon!
Hi, this is Ryuki Matsubara from the University of Tokyo School of Engineering. So Ichi, you are here. So we are wishing you and your crewmates safe flight and can't wait to see you in space. どうかお気をつけていってらっしゃいませ。Hey
guys, it's me Ryan from Philadelphia, and today I'm going to say have a safe trip. Go NASA, go SpaceX, go Crew 1.
Hi, this is Rob Blevins at the Discovery Center in Springfield, Missouri. We want to thank Mike, Shannon, Victor, and Suichi for helping inspire the next generation of scientists and astronauts to go make history like you're going to do today. Go NASA, go SpaceX, go make history!
Hi, everybody. I'm NASA astronaut Drew Foistel, and I'm here with my fellow astronauts to wish Crew 1 a successful and exciting ride to the International Space Station on the SpaceX Dragon. We're excited to see you launch in space. Congratulations to Mike Hopkins, Victor Glover, Shannon Walker, and Suichi Noguchi on this historic flight. We can't wait to see you in space. Go Crew 1! Yeah! Go Crew 1!
All right, the crew is continuing to make their way to Launch Pad 39A. We're at T-minus 3 hours and 3 minutes. So in about 8 minutes or so, we should hear the announcement of the crew arriving at the pad. Loved hearing those shout outs from those folks. I think that little girl was my favorite. But Nicole, I know the first time you saw that video, you got to see a lot of familiar faces from the astronaut corps.
Yeah, it's fun, you know. The other words I'll use a lot today are living vicariously. I can tell you every single one of the people in that picture were. It's pretty cool.
And now with the eyes of so many around the world watching, the crew is nearing their next milestone. At this point, the convoy is approaching Pad 39A and entering what is known as the BDA, or Blast Danger Area. Before any pad technicians, engineers, or astronauts enter this area around the launch pad, the SpaceX and NASA teams have to do internal go, no-go polls to make sure everything is clear and it's safe to approach.
This view that we have now, I just love it. This is the pad where humans went to the moon. This is Pad 39A, and originally built in the 1960s to support the Saturn V for the Apollo program. It was then upgraded to support the shuttle program. SpaceX signed the lease for it in 2014. Themselves might look a little different. We did remove the rotating service structure. But the heart, the bones of the fixed service structure from the shuttle days is still there. We made some modifications and safety improvements. You know, the salty air here can be quite corrosive, but
sure.
As you know, something that is also a little different, the hangar that is built there allows us to do the integration much closer to the pad itself than in the shuttle and the shuttle and the Saturn V Apollo days. So it's really neat to see them. They're approaching now, driving up onto the pad, and I just love thinking about everything that has happened here and appreciate that we have the opportunity to continue human spaceflight from such a historic location.
Yeah, it really strikes me that the last time we saw this happening was, you know, back in the spring with Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley making this approach onto the pad, and we saw them kind of lean back after they got out of the cars, looking up to try to just take in the height and the grandeur of the pad, knowing that they were about to get on a rocket that was going to come to life. And now we have a full crew of 4, and it's just spectacular to know what is just around the corner for them.
Mm-hmm. From their standpoint, standing out there on the pad, they have to look up about 70 meters, considering everything that's holding the rocket up. And
I think that's part of the awe of it, though, too, is that you have to, I mean, you really have to kind of bend back. It's not easy to bend back in those suits and look up like that, but you want to take it in a little bit. I know I heard Suichi earlier echo this sentiment that you get out to the pad on launch day, and it's absolutely like the vehicle is already alive, even before you take off. It's huffing and puffing a little bit, a little bit of smoke or, steam coming out of there, and it's ready to go as well. And I know I love what you're talking about too, Kate, with the transformation of the pad. I think I was very fortunate to fly both times out of 39A on Discovery, and I don't know, on the one side you want the pad just to stay the way it was, when you went, but absolutely that as it's changing, that new opportunities are opening up. It's allowing us to get back to space on a new vehicle and, look to the future of space exploration.
Yeah.
I mean, the pad has to change just like everything else does.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the shuttle program was the spaceflight program of my childhood, and there's absolutely nostalgia associated with that service structure and transformation take place, and to see all of the upgrades that have been incorporated, not only to allow Falcon 9 to fly from here, but also Falcon Heavy, it's really mind-blowing in many ways.
Yeah. And for the reason why we don't see the crew right now, we saw them pull up to the base of the pad. They have an opportunity for a bio break before they get into the elevator. That's, something you can't overlook, important stop you have to make. So we're giving them a chance to do that. And then we will probably hear the official call out that the crew has arrived at the pad at T-minus 2:55. So that's coming up in about 3 minutes or so. And one other thing, Kate, for folks that maybe aren't familiar with the operational timeline for Falcon 9, there's no fuel in the rocket yet, right? That process hasn't started yet. For Crew Dragon, it's a little bit different, but can you explain that process for folks who might not be familiar with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So in order to make sure that the 9 Merlin engines have the best performance possible, we wait as long as we can to begin.
On countdown 1 for timeline. All personnel have arrived at the pad on schedule.
All right, good call there, confirming that we are on schedule. So as I was saying, we want to make sure that the 9 Merlin engines have the best performance possible, and in order to do that, we use super densified, super chilled liquid oxygen. So the colder you get the liquid oxygen, the more of those oxygen molecules you can pack in. So we get better performance by having more oxidizer, and so we basically wait, in the larger timeline of things, it seems like last minute, but it's around the T-minus 35 minute mark that we will begin that prop loading on first and second stages with liquid oxygen and RP1, which is our rocket grade kerosene, basically.
And Crew Dragon, though, has already been fueled.
Right? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, the capsule itself, yeah.
Right.
So the Dragon capsule use hypergolic fuels that are instantaneously combustible. So that's why they're great for a spacecraft, because you don't need an ignition source. You just put the two together, the fuel and the oxidizer, and they combust. So yeah, those hypergolic fuels were loaded onto the capsule earlier in the week. Actually, it might have been last week. I'm losing track of the days at this point.
I know.
But yeah, that is all done prior to integration. That's all done in an area called Dragonland down the street. And then, so the capsule then gets integrated onto the trunk, and then we transport that here to 39A, and then we then integrate the trunk and capsule on top of the second stage.
And we had what is called a dry dress rehearsal of this entire process without fueling the rocket. That's why it's called dry dress, because there's no fuel involved. But that happened on Thursday. So I'm mixing up my days like you, Kate.
We all are.
Today's Sunday, right? Yeah. So Thursday there was a dry dress rehearsal where they went through this whole process from... Sorry, it sounds like we were starting to hear a call, so I don't want to step on that. Okay, so to recap, we had a dry dress rehearsal on Thursday where the teams went through the entire process, starting in the suit-up room of suit up right up to the pad. They ingressed Dragon, closed the hatch, and then they simulated a scrub up an hour or so before the simulated launch time. So that is the last opportunity. I think, Nicole, during shuttle days, they called it the TCDT.
Yep.
And I can't remember what that stands for.
Terminal countdown test. Yeah.
There you go.
Dry run.
And how important is that final opportunity to do that before the real thing?
I think it's really important, and over time we found it was so that we are continuing it now, right? There's something about having a team in that, really in that launch mode.
Mm-hmm.
Real vehicle at the pad, shortly before the actual time is going to come to run through these things, and to give the crew an opportunity, like you said, at about an hour before, to run through what it would be like if they needed to scrub,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of that final countdown and get to their escape baskets or down to the base of the pad and out of harm's way. So just get your head kind of in the right place.
Yep. And we actually had a scrub with Bob Benkin and Doug Hurley. The first launch attempt for Demo 2 was May 27th. We ended up not going until May 30th. But that first day, scrub happened at all the way down to, it was like T-minus 17 minutes.
Yeah.
And so Falcon 9 was still, was well into the fueling process, and the crew can't egress from the capsule until the
vehicle is offloaded.
Right. We've got to offload all that fuel. So hopefully we won't be in a situation like that today, 50-50. We'll see. But here they are. The astronauts have begun to emerge from their bio break. And I'm not sure which pair this is.
I think that might be Victor and Suichi.
You have better eyes than I do, Kate.
I think that might be Shannon. Yeah, I think that's Shannon.
I'm sorry,
on the right.
Shannon, yeah.
Okay, Victor and Shannon. So they are getting inside the elevator. This is the same elevator Nicole's on.
Yes, it is.
So I mentioned before that we have something called the advanced team. And when I learned about this...
Okay, that's Mike and Shannon.
When I learned about the advanced team, they are responsible for, like I said before, making sure the hatch is open, the cabin has communications and lights. They're also responsible for making sure that someone has the elevator keys.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't just get in there.
Yeah.
The devil's in the details.
For sure. Now, when the astronauts ascend here, just as in the olden days, the levels of the tower are not marked 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. They are marked by foot height. So they press the 255-foot button and ride to the top.
Okay, and here's our first look at that level where they come out of the elevator. Now, they're going to make their way around because they have a handful of stairs to climb to get up to the level where the crew access arm is. That's that long suspended walkway. So here they go up the steps.
Got to work for it.
Yeah, right. Well, they've made it this far. What's a couple more steps?
Oh, look how beautiful.
It's been a long time since I've had the privilege of being up there and seeing that view up in person, but it is just, words don't do it justice.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a view. You can see the NASA worm, and on the far end, that is where the phone is. Nicole, can you talk about the significance of the phone there?
Yeah, and I think they've maintained the same original phone, like
Yes.
the big handset, and it was one last opportunity to, call your family before loading up into the vehicle. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I love that NASA and now NASA and SpaceX have maintained these personal touches to the humans that are part of human spaceflight. I think it's really, really important that we do those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. And the one other thing that you'll notice are the white arrows pointing towards us on the camera, and that's not just for design. There's a very
Although
those are
cool.
very it does look cool, but that they're very intentional. Okay, and so this will be Victor and Soichi.
Yeah.
Now approaching the pad. So Mike and Shannon got a head start. Victor and Soichi are making their way to the elevator now. I wonder if they're going to stop and
they gotta
strain, or maybe they've already done that to get a look up.
Here they go. It's kind of like the pre-flight, right? The walk around your vehicle before you get in and fly.
Yeah. I feel like this one carries a little more weight.
Yeah. Yeah. Incredible.
I really want to come up with a name for the move that they have to do when they turn and bend and look back.
Yeah. It's the don't fall backwards move.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're having a lot of fun here. We know the crew is having a blast. There they are. I knew they were going to do it. But this is they must have so much adrenaline pumping through them, because when you are getting on top of a rocket, your life is at stake. And that's not something that any of the people involved in this mission from start to finish take for granted or take lightly. The folks who work on this program take that responsibility to heart. And like you said, Nicole, I mean, when you're talking about the relationships with the people in the suit-up room, they have those relationships with people across the NASA and SpaceX teams. They walk the factory floor in Hawthorne, and the people that work this mission, they know the astronauts and they see them as their own family. Here's a look inside the crew access arm from the inside.
I love this shot. When this was being designed, it was definitely a forward-thinking design that we went with. We really wanted it to encapsulate the experience of the next era of spaceflight, really wanting to make it look futuristic, as with the suits and the capsule itself. Very sleek and elegant.
Okay, so here's Victor and Soichi. The last shot inside the access arm was Mike and Shannon. So they're standing now inside the white room. We're going to explain a little bit more about that in a minute, but you can see the side hatch of Dragon open, and that is where they are going to ingress or climb inside in about 13 minutes if things are on schedule. Yeah. They're signing the wall there. Kate, can you explain what they're doing there with the signatures?
So we just saw Mike's...
The crew has arrived at the white room on schedule.
All right, good core call there. Just notifying everyone that the crew has arrived on time. We now see Shannon adding her signature to the wall. So in keeping with tradition, we painted this room white, and the advanced team, once again, I'll talk about them. Part of their responsibility, also making sure that there's a Sharpie on hand so that crew members can add their names to our signature wall. Bob and Doug did this prior to their flight, and I love that this is really the last thing you do before you get in our spaceship. I just love that there's an opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the list of names grow over time.
It's going to be spectacular to see. Well, if everything goes as planned, we'll have the next group of 4 signing their names there in the spring with Crew 2.
Mm-hmm.
And on Crew 2, one of your crew members will be, Megan MacArthur-Bankin, wife of Bob, who flew DM2.
They are my definition of a power couple, and I'm here for it. I love it. I'm really excited to see what the seat assignments will be, because it'd be really cool if she was sitting in the same position as he was inside the capsule for her mission.
Oh, there's a wave.
Yeah.
This is so exciting for Soichi, and I know he has some extended family who couldn't be here in Florida for the launch, but hopefully they're getting the opportunity to watch from Japan. And I'm trying to think of what time it is there now. It's early Monday morning, so if they set their alarm clocks early enough, they'll have a chance to.
I'm sure
watch.
they are.
Yeah.
So I think at this point in time, Victor is making that last family phone call.
Mm-hmm. And Kate, we started to talk about the arrows, and then hi. I feel like he's watching us.
Well, that's so awesome that he's doing that, because I think we had talked about this once before, where in the white room before, because with shuttle we didn't have that last meet and greet kind of thing at the O&C before getting in the vehicles. We knew the cameras were there, we knew our families were watching, and we would do little secret hand signals to our spouses and kids, and they'd know it was coming. You couldn't say anything, but you could do the little love you thing.
Sign language, yeah. But the arrows, I know you can't see them on the screen right now, but we've mentioned them a couple times. Those are for emergency egress. If for any reason the crew had to get out of the capsule, get out of the White Room, and get away from the pad in a hurry. That is the pad, the arrows that show them go this way, essentially.
And you need something like that because, you know, depending on the situation, you might actually have some smoke or the water deluge system going. And so you tip your head down, you look at the floor, you grab each other and go.
Yeah. From the tower, we utilize basically baskets that are on zip lines, and they slide down the wire to safety.
And you can see on your screen the crew beginning the ingress process already. So our timeline has this happening at T-minus 2 hours and 35 minutes. So it looks like they may just be starting that a little bit early. There are, of course, 4 astronauts who have to ingress. So this doesn't happen in an instant. It's a process, but obviously that process has begun.
So we see some of the suit technicians there assisting them to get into their seat, making sure that the boots are able to lock into position on the footrest